Hi guys. Okay, so today I would like to talk about a basic first aid kit for your horses. The information we're getting today comes straight out of the Module 2 Advanced Stable Yard Skills book. So for those of you that want to do your Equine exams at some point, you will need to know this stuff as well. So yeah, here's step 1 for you. Okay, so let's start and we'll jump straight into it. The basic equine first aid kit, the first thing you'll need for your kit is contact details of your vet. So we're quite blessed in South Africa. Details for your vet and backup. Okay, so we're quite blessed in South Africa that we have our horses at a livery yard where they have protocols in place to look after our horses. So if one of our horses had to colic or wasn't doing so well, the yard would call the vet and inform us and let us know that the horse isn't doing well. But if you had to be taking care of your own horse, it's very important to have the contact details for your vet and a backup contact detail in case your vet does not answer the phone, that you have an extra number there in case you cannot get to your horse and someone else is there. At least they know who to call if they can't get a hold of you. So yeah, contact details for your vet and backup. All right, the second point, by the way, here's all the points, but I'll write them out nicely for us. Our second point is a thermometer. It's probably one of thermometer. It's probably one of the most important things you need in your equine first aid, your first aid box for your horse. Hold on, sorry. Your thermometer looks like this. Any thermometer will work. There's a multiple variety of thermometers that you can use. But basically, the point of a thermometer is to let us know what the temperature is of the horse. And generally, when your horse is looking a little bit lethargic or they aren't looking 100% like they normally would, we'll take the temperature to see if there's anything up with the horse. Generally, if there's something wrong with the horse, the temperature will be higher and it will inform us that the horse isn't feeling so well. Same thing with humans, like when we get sick, we run a fever. Same thing with the horses. The minute they're not feeling well, whether it's a colic or a virus or African horse sickness or whatever it might be, or tick bite fever, the temperature will generally rise in the horses. So when you want to take your horse's temperature, you want to put the thermometer about 1 inch to half an inch into the horse's rectum, just to make sure that you have it must be at least that far in, or else you won't be getting an accurate reading. You generally want to try to get yourself a fast thermometer. So this one takes about 30 seconds max to take a temp, where this one can take up to a minute. Obviously, because if your horse isn't feeling well, they're not going to really enjoy you standing behind them. But yes, it's very, very important to have a thermometer to take the horse's temperatures when they are not looking 100%. All right, point number 3 that we are going to do is we need scissors. Scissors are important, but we don't want sharp scissors. We want blunt nose scissors. Reason being, when your horse is freaking out and they're doing stupid stuff, they can accidentally stab themselves. So using a blunt scissors, you can't really stab your horse. If you had sharp scissors and they freaked out while you were busy cutting a bandage or sorting something out around them, you could probably actually severely hurt your horse. These are also nice scissors to have for manes and ears, to trim your manes and your horse's ears. Also, if you're trimming your horse's ears and they freak out, you can't really stab them. If you had sharp scissors, you could possibly do damage. So short, blunt nose scissors are good. All right, then our next point is a disinfectant. So number 4 is a disinfectant. So anything from a soap to a spray to a cream, you will preferably have in your medical aid kit. So the number 1 most important thing for me is terramycin. This is a very important product. It's a blue spray, as you can see, like it's nice and blue. So when your horse comes in with a cut or a graze on their legs, generally, if it's not bad, we will just spray it with this purple spray. Correct name is terramycin. And it just helps to disinfect the wound and to keep it nice and sealed. And it also dries it out and stops the bleeding. So if your horse is bleeding quite badly, but it's not a serious wound, you can use the wound spray. Also, I don't know if you guys have heard lately with the wetness lately, We've been spraying this onto the horse's hooves to dry out the soles and stop thrush from forming in our horse's feet. So this is a very, very important bottle to have in your medical aid kit for your horse. And I would recommend that everybody has at least a bottle of this in their grooming kit if they do not have a first aid kit for their horses. All right, the next thing that we can talk about is a germicidal treatment shampoo. This will work for if your horse is rubbing their manes or tails, or they start scratching their bums. This will be a very good product to have in your first aid kit, just to help the horses alleviate the itch. And then you want a topical antiseptic for deep wounds if you wanted to clean them. This is the one we use, and basically it just disinfects the wound and helps to heal it. And then we have a germicidal wound spray for after we've cleaned the wound. If it's just an abrasion or whatever, we'll spray the purple spray, and then we'll put this on top to stop the flies and uglies from getting into the wound. And then obviously any soap, so if you had like a Dettol or something, that would also be good to have, just to clean out the wound and disinfect it and look after it. All right, the next point that we are going to talk about, we had disinfectants, we are going on to cotton wool. Okay, cotton wool is important for many reasons. Wool, I nearly forgot how to spell. Cotton wool is important for many different reasons. Number one, to clean out wounds. So if you have a horse that has an ouchie, you can have like a roll of cotton wool like this, and you just break off a piece, and you can put your disinfectant on there, whatever, and lightly clean the wound. You can also use gauze for that purpose. So it just depends on the wound and what you plan on doing with it. Generally, you can also put like an antiseptic on here and put it onto the wound, and just like dab it if you're not going to be doing scrapings or like rubbing out the dirt. Cotton wool can be very useful. Also, a nice recommendation is a large roll of cotton wool like this one. Reason being, if your horse damages their leg and cuts themselves quite badly, and they need their leg to be wrapped to treat the wound or to keep the wound closed, you will wrap their leg first off in this giant cotton wool, so that when you bandage the wound, you're not putting any extra pressure on the horse's tendons and ligaments in their leg, and this basically just acts as like a nice cushy padding between the bandage and the leg. So important, if you can, to get a roll like this. The rolls are generally quite thick and quite big, but we've recently just treated a horse for a sore leg, hence why we are a little bit low on the cotton wool side. All right, so then we go on to number 6, which is sterilized gauze. I will show you now. For those of you that don't know, oopsie, lost my pen lid. For those of you that don't know what gauze is, basically it comes in a box like this, and your gauze, did I take a piece out earlier? I did. So this is what gauze looks like, and basically you can use this to clean wounds, you can use this to put antiseptic on your horse's legs, so you can basically put like this antiseptic cream on here and go into the wound and clean out the wound. You can also put like a iodine antiseptic ointment, so like this one, onto the gauze, and then put the gauze underneath the cotton wool and then bandage the leg. So it all just depends on the type of wound as well, but it's also very good just to have these just to do light cleaning of the wounds and disinfecting when needed to. Alright, so we have gauze. Oh, just trying to put it back. And then the next one we are talking about, number 7, is bandages. Bandages. So, bandages. You need quite a few different types of bandages. We'll go through them together now. So, when you wrap your horse's leg in the cotton wool and now you need to put the bandage on the leg, you will generally use a crepe bandage like this. You can see it's just a normal material bandage, and it is quite stretchy. So, if you can see, like, I can stretch it quite a lot. So, it's good to use as a pressure bandage. But it's also, you got to be careful not to pull it too tightly and then you're doing damage to your horse's leg. Hence why we have the cotton wool, so that we can prevent human mistakes and protect our horse's legs. So you need one of these bandages. The packaging looks like this, and you can get them from pretty much any tack store, hardware store, just go and ask them for it. Or even a chemist. You could probably get it from a chemist as well. Now, once you've put on this bandage, obviously it's not a sticky bandage, so we need something to protect it and keep it on the leg. So that's where the sticky bandage comes in handy. You get different sizes. So this is the small one, and this is the big one. I would recommend the big ones because there's very seldom times that you're going to need a small one. I think we just ran out of options, so we ended up with the small ones, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. So as you can see, this is a very sticky bandage. Excuse the pen on my hand. I was trying to figure out which ones I could use for the demonstration. So as you can see, it's a very sticky bandage, and this bandage will go on top of your material bandage to protect the material bandage and keep it in place. This will also stop the bandage, this one will stop the bandage from falling off once the bandage is on, and will keep the extra support until ready for changing. Now, you get this bandage, and then you get what's been coming out lately is this type of bandage. These colorful ones. I don't think I can open it with one hand. I doubt it. But I'm gonna try. There we go. Okay. So we've got this type of bandage. These bandages are quite nice because you can reuse them depending on the day and on the horse. Generally, I used these when I was an athlete and I'd have injuries. I would use this bandage and then wash it, and then it would stick to itself again. So these are like self-sticking bandages, basically. So as you can see, it's not really sticking to me, but the minute I push it back on itself, it becomes sticky again, and it actually sticks to itself. So these are quite nice. They're not as hectic to use as these. These ones are very sticky, and you have to almost unroll the entire thing before you can re-roll it. So like you either can have one of these or you can have one of these. I would recommend these over these, but these are slightly more expensive, but they last long. And generally with horse wounds, you won't ever really reuse a bandage. So yeah, I like these a lot, but they are a little bit more pricey. So if you're treating regularly and the bandage has to stay on for long, I would use this. It lasts a bit longer. But if you're changing a bandage once every 3 or 4 days, I would suggest one of these. Also for horses that have an abscess or we need to do a poultice on the foot, this bandage would be recommended because it is very hardy and it won't fall off. So have one of these, and one of those in your box, in your medical aid box, and you should be pretty much sorted on the bandage side of things. Also, these crepe bandages come with these. Please don't use them. You never know if the horse does something weird and then they end up stabbing themselves, and it could be very uncomfortable. So just throw these away. All right, then after that, also you want pretty much 2 of each. So as you can see, it says here, bandages, at least 2 of each, a plain, elasticized, and a crepe. Stable bandages are handy for keeping dressings and bandages in position and clean. So if you have a stable bandage and like you're treating the horse at night or something and you just want to keep a wound closed, you can use the stable bandage, but it's not really necessary. All right, so after bandages, we are going on to a ointment. So you got 8, which is ointments. So these are like your topical ointment creams for superficial wounds, and superficial being on the outside like a scrape or whatever. You can use something like this, which is Acrisolf, which just heals and protects damaged skin. It's safe for all animals, horses, dogs, cats, sheep, cattle, blah blah blah. Or you can use something like this germicidal barrier ointment. This will just keep it nice and clean and keep the flies away from it. And then also you can go really far with your topical creams, and you can get small types of creams. Like this is a small type of cream that you can use, but it is for humans. But you can use it, so it's not really recommended too much. But this is definitely one of my top recommendations when it comes to horses. Get yourself a tube of this, Dermavate. It keeps the wounds clean. It heals it really well. As you can see, antiseptic wound healing cream. This is one of my highly recommended in your medical aid kit, which I will also do a brief version of at the end of this video. So yeah, get yourself one of these. Very nice topical cream. Your horse has a cut or whatever, no matter how big or small the cut is, you can put this on and it will keep it clean and it will help increase the healing time of your horse's injuries. All right, so then after we have the ointment, so they do say they want electrolytes. But now with the electrolytes, it's not really a recommend, like not a, it is recommended, but it's not an essential thing to have, as it is something that you can get on the day, so it's not really like an emergency situation type of thing. But what we have on the farm here is we have a probiotic for our horses, because we breed. Some of our horses end up on Purback, which is an antibiotic to look after them. And then when they are on Purback, because the antibiotic kills all the good bacteria, we put them on a probiotic just to help with the gut and to keep them healthy. All right. Then after electrolytes, they say it's important to have fly repellent. Which I agree with 110%, but this will normally be in your grooming kit and not in your medical aid kit. I like keeping them separately, so my fly repellent is currently in my grooming kit and not here on my bed. But yes, fly repellent is obviously very important. I don't need to tell you guys why. And the next point is a clean bucket. So if your horse does something stupid and the vet is on its way, just make sure that you have a clean bucket handy. You can use a stable bucket. Just empty it and make sure you rinse it out a little bit so that they can put clean water in there if they need to. And point number 12 is a sponge. I don't have one here with me. Once again, that's in my grooming kit. A sponge, you can either use it to sponge down the horses. You can either use it to sponge down a wound, but that'll be like more of a swelling type of thing you can use the sponge for. But sponges are very versatile and important to have either in your grooming kit or in your medical aid kit. And then the last thing that they suggest is a torch with backup batteries. Backup batteries. And that's obviously for when you are doing your checks at night, that you have something to check your horses with. And if you're busy treating a horse and your torch suddenly dies, at least you can put your batteries in your torch and make the torch work again and treat the horse as needed. So we're just going to go back through this whole thing. The one thing that they didn't put on this list that I just want to add, which I think is very important, is gloves. Surgical gloves, just in case you have a horse with an open wound. You obviously don't want to infect the horse, so these types of gloves, normal plastic gloves, obviously you don't need a lot, just like one for emergency situations, one or two, because you just don't want to go and take your dirty hands and put them in a horse's wound and expect it not to get infected. So I do think that gloves are very important to have, so we have gloves. And then also, if you want to go very far, you can get yourself a stethoscope so that you can listen to your horse's pulse, heart rate and stuff. This is what it looks like. So this is your stethoscope. But obviously it's not a it's not a requirement. We have one just because we live on a farm and the vet is very far away. So we have one of those and we can listen to the horse's pulse and breathing, and you can hear if they are struggling to breathe or anything like that. A few other things that we have in this magical giant box of ours is Q-tips. These can be used to put like an antiseptic cream into like a puncture wound to clean it out if you need to, but generally with puncture wounds you want to just call your vet and make sure that nothing is in there. This is a honey cream that you use for ugly scars that need to be healed. So this helps heal it up really nice and quickly. Obviously our bandages, and then more bandages. This is a powder for keloid scars that we have. This is just to help the horses that have like really bad leg injuries from scarring really badly. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole emergency kit that you need, but a little summary of it, of what I would have in my emergency box, is I would have my bandages. I would have one of each. We'll just do that. So I'd have my bandages. I would have my thermometer. I would have my scissors. I would have an antiseptic cream. I would definitely have my Dermavet, my Terramycin, a ointment cream like this one, and my F10 shampoo, and my wound spray. Those are definitely the things that I would have in my emergency kit for my horse to treat. Generally, if it needs to be treated with anything else, you need to call your vet. So yeah, don't delay. Make sure you call your vet if there's ever an emergency. Also, good to have your cotton wool so that you can clean your wounds and obviously your gauze. Alright, so let me just quickly pack this all away. And also, if you want, that I just found out now, is we have a Vaseline thing that you can use, like if you want to take your horse's temperature and they're not necessarily happy, you can use a little bit of Vaseline just to make the process a little bit easier. So I'm just quickly going to put these all back in their box. I will pack it all nicely just now. Put that over there. Dermavet over there. Alright, and obviously your scissors. So I just quickly want to run through one more thing with you guys, and then this video will end. I just want us to go through what we should know about our horses' color and breath rate and all those types of things. So we'll just go important NB. Alright, so your horse's temperature. Their normal for a horse, their normal range is anything from 37.2 degrees to 38 degrees. That's their normal range, and they average out at 37.6 degrees. So that's very important to know. So if you ever take your horse's temperature, if it's below 37.2, don't worry too much. Obviously, horses, very much like humans, have their own temperatures. Sometimes they might be a little bit lower, sometimes it might be a fraction higher, but they average out at about 37.6. So yeah, about anything less than 37 can be slightly worrying, but you can also be sitting in a little ball of poop in the rectum, and that could be giving you a false reading. Generally, you worry when your horse's temperature is above 38. Generally, 38.5 and higher is very, very high, and then you would definitely want to call your vet. So yeah, good temperatures to know. Pulse for your horse, to know what your horse's pulse is. An adult horse is anything from 24 to 38 beats per minute. So 24 to 38, I hope we can see that that's an 8. 24 to 38 beats per minute for your pulse. And respiration. For your horses. An adult horse is anything from 8 to 14 breaths per minute. Obviously, that can change depending on what your horse is doing. So sometimes horses, when they are smelling, will be breathing a little bit faster, obviously like a dog would, because horses do also smell the air around them. So if you are riding a horse or you're close to your horse and you're like, oh my goodness, how's my horse going? But they're not breathing hard, they're just breathing a lot, they're generally smelling for something. If your horse is panting like a dog, that is not a good thing. And you need to get your vet out ASAP. So just keep in mind of these few things. Also, mucous membranes, we'll just do this quickly while we're here. Mucous membrane must be a pink color, and moist to touch. Anything that is yellow, blue, dark red, bright red, brick red, and white, you need to contact your veterinarian immediately. So as you can see here, horses are ill, have a problem. Those are the colors of their gums, but your normal horse has pink gums and is moist to the touch. So obviously if your horse isn't feeding well, you can check the gums. That's generally the first thing I do. If my horse is looking a little bit flat, so I'll check the gums. If they're pink, I'll check their eyes. Their eyes need to be the same type of pink as their mucous membranes, and then I will take their temperature, and if the temperature is normal and the mucous membranes are normal, then there's generally nothing to worry about too much. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to share with you guys today. One more look at the list. I will also take a photo and post it on the group so you guys can have it. But yeah, I hope you learned something today, and I hope your lockdown is going well. Stay safe, stay indoors, and I will see you guys soon.